This is the Phantom X2 5G in this stunning Stardust grey colour. You might have seen videos of an orange Phantom X2. Well, that's the X2 Pro, the senior brother to the X2. It's also more expensive than the X2. But personally, I feel like this might be the better buy and the phone that most people go for. So let me tell you all about it. Welcome to the review of the Phantom X2 5G. Okay, so what's the gist? The X2 Pro has that retractable camera. What does this one have? Well, for starters, it has a very polarizing design. I've heard people say it's one of the best designs ever on a smartphone, and then some other people say it's just ugly. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. The cameras are huge, no doubt, and placed at the center top half of the phone. I personally think the camera module looks complex and intricate and just adds a bit of that premium touch to the design. This is the Stardust grey colour. It shimmers in the sun. There's also a silver one, but to be honest, I think this one looks the best. The case it comes with also matches the colour of the phone, which is pretty neat. It doesn't really protect it, but it looks cool at least. I don't know why, but this somehow reminds me of a black Mercedes. Can you see it? No? Okay. Another nice touch is the power button with red accents. It doesn't really perform a function, but it does look nice. The volume keys are above the power button, and I think the button placements are fine. It's easy to reach. Looking around the phone, you'll notice there's only one speaker on here, unfortunately. It's located at the bottom of the phone, and while gaming, you can accidentally block it and shut off literally all the sound. I'm surprised they didn't go with dual stereo speakers here. But when you're not covering the speaker, it does sound fine. It's pretty loud and clear too. Another sad news is there is no support for expandable storage. You get dual SIM support, but no micro SD card slot. Now you do get 256 gigabytes of storage, which I think is enough for most people, but I think everyone would have still liked the option to expand. You've probably noticed this by now. It has a curved screen. Some people hate it, some people like it. I like it. The curve isn't as drastic, but you clearly see the screen melt into the sides. Some people worry that because of the curved screen, when you hold the phone, you might encounter accidental touches, but I can confirm that that doesn't happen. Your palm resting on the curve doesn't interfere with what you're doing on screen, so it has decent palm rejection. I love the feel in hand of the X2. The rear also has a bit of curve, so it sits just right in your hand. The display is also so good to look at. It's a 6.8-inch 120Hz AMOLED panel. Deep blacks, vibrant colors, you know the deal. It has a resolution of 1080 by 2400, so decently sharp too. Wallpapers look so good. It also handled HDR content pretty well, so I think for everyone who buys this phone, the display would not disappoint. Now, the screen is 6.8 inches, so definitely on the larger side. That's something you might want to consider. Me personally, I do have relatively large hands, so it was fine for me, but I think if you have smaller hands, like using this phone with one hand might be a struggle. Bezels are pretty small. It has a 93.3% screen to body ratio, so that's good. And they also went with a single hole punch cutout at the top, which houses a 32 megapixel selfie camera. And on the back, we have a triple camera setup, but really only two cameras matter. A 64 megapixel wide and a 13 megapixel ultra wide. I can easily say the main cameras took really good photos. I was impressed with the Canon, so I knew that this wouldn't disappoint. The ultra wides aren't as good. Obviously, less detailed, it's understandable. It's 13 megapixels, but it does try its best to match the colors of the main sensor. Doesn't quite get it, but it's not too far off. There's also optical zoom of I think 2x, which is just a 2x crop of the main sensor. Still pretty sharp though. I'm not much of a selfie taker, but I think with the right lighting conditions, you can get decent selfies. In terms of video, you can shoot up to 4K 60 FPS. I shot mainly though in 4K 30 FPS, and with that you still get stabilization. The videos look really good. Stabilization is decent, but there's a little wobble in the footage when you move the camera about. 1080p 30 FPS seems to be the sweet spot. There's next to no wobble, it's stabilized and looks almost as good as when you shoot in 4K. For the front-facing camera, you could shoot max at 1080p, and this is what it looks like. What are your thoughts on the overall camera performance of the X2? Please leave a comment. Shooting video in 4K was made possible almost entirely by the processor. It's the flagship Dimensity 9000. It's a 4nm 5G chipset only seen in flagships. So yes, this phone supports 5G. I mean, it's in the name. Performance is exceptional on here. Gaming as well is flagship level. I'm talking the best of the best settings. High frame rates, high graphic quality, pair that with the 120Hz refresh rate, and you're good to go. Multitasking as well is great. Using this phone was a joy because everything felt smooth and was super responsive. I think for the X2, performance is the major selling point. And we all know that performance is definitely one of those key features that people consider when buying a new phone. Another thing they consider is battery life. The X2 comes with a 5160 mAh cell, which is expected does a really decent job. You should expect to get around 6 to 7 hours of screen on time on the X2. But what happens when it dies? Well, the X2 comes in the box with a 45 watt charging brick, which would fully charge your phone in about 70 minutes. So nothing crazy, but definitely good. And they include said charger in the box. I'm looking at you, Samsung. They also give you this fancy case which doubles as a kickstand for when you watch videos. I thought that was a nice touch. They also matched the case to the phone, which again was really nice. Someone asked on TikTok, will this phone get future software updates? And the answer is yes. Tecno is saying that you're going to get 2 years of major OS updates and 3 years of security updates. The X2 is currently running Android 12 and iOS 12, so Android 13 and 14 would get to the X2 5G. Its price, 373,900 Naira. What are your thoughts? Earlier, I asked, what is the X2's thing? Well, I think it nails the fundamentals. Great design, great display, great performance, great main camera, great battery life. I also did say that this is perhaps a better buy than the X2 Pro. And the reason I said that is because it shares a lot of similarities with the X2 Pro. For me, the main difference would be in the camera setup. The Pro is definitely much better. So if you're that user who rarely takes pictures, then I would say save yourself some money. Go with the Phantom X2. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Tecno Phantom X2. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you when you see me.